"Sweetheart, I bill 400 an hour, and you can't afford 4 minutes." Grant Delaney leaned back in his chair and laughed, the easy laugh of a man who'd never once been wrong in his own office. "Whatever this is, there's legal aid across town." He waved a hand at her plain coat, her canvas bag. "The situation's like yours." Yvonne Carter let him finish. She let the laugh run all the way down. Then she reached into the canvas bag and set a folded document on his desk and slid it across the glass without a word. Delaney glanced at it the way you glance at a menu you've already decided against. Then he actually read it. And the laugh went out of his face like water out of a cracked glass. Because what Grant Delaney did not know, what the receptionist who'd smirked at her didn't know, what the 2 junior associates who'd watched her wait 40 minutes didn't know, was that the quiet woman in the plain coat wasn't there to hire a lawyer. She held the deed to the building his firm had leased for 19 years. And she was there to collect. Yvonne was 56, and she had spent most of that morning being looked through, which was nothing new. She'd sat in the marble lobby of the Halloran Tower under the gold letters of Delaney and Voss, and the receptionist had asked twice, slower each time, whether she had an appointment, and had made her wait past it, and had finally sent her in with a look that said this'll be quick. Yvonne had worn that look her whole life the way you wear weather. She'd learned young that there's a kind of power that shows itself by how comfortably it ignores you. And she'd learned something else too, from the one person who'd ever really taught her anything. Her grandmother, Gloria Carter, had cleaned that building. 31 years, nights, on her knees in the very offices that now belonged to Delaney and Voss, emptying the brass bins of men who never learned her name. Gloria had raised Yvonne in a 2-room apartment on a janitor's wages and a spine you could have built a bridge on, and she'd brought the girl to work some nights when there was no one to watch her. And Yvonne had done her homework at a partner's empty desk, while her grandmother mopped the hall outside. Gloria wore a heavy ring of keys on her belt that opened every door in the tower, and she'd jingle down the corridors like weather coming, and at the end of every shift she'd sit the girl down and tell her the same thing. "Let them do the talking, baby. Pepper does the deciding." She meant it about a lot of things. She meant it most about the year the family lost the little house Gloria's own mother had bought. Lost it to a foreclosure that a downtown farm pushed through fast and clean, while a widow who didn't understand the documents signed where they told her to sign. Gloria had gone to a lawyer to fight it and been laughed out of an office much like this one. Told she couldn't afford to be right. She'd lost the house. And she told her granddaughter, jingling her keys in the dark hallway, that talk had taken their home, but paper would be the thing that got it back. Someday, for somebody, that the people who won in this world weren't the ones who shouted loudest, but the ones who held the right document at the right moment and knew what it said. When Gloria died, she left Yvonne almost nothing. A little insurance, her Bible, and the heavy ring of keys, which opened nothing anymore, because the locks had all been changed a dozen times since. Yvonne kept the keys anyway. They rode in the bottom of her canvas bag. They were in the bag on Grant Delaney's desk. Yvonne had built herself the slow way her grandmother would have recognized. Not loud, not fast, but paper by paper. She'd started buying property when she was 30, with money she'd saved, managing other people's buildings. A duplex, then a fourplex, then a strip of storefronts nobody wanted. Learning leases and deeds and title work, the way Gloria had learned locks, until quietly, over 20 years, and under the name of a holding company that carried no face. Yvonne Carter came to own commercial buildings across 3 parts of the city. She didn't dress the part. She'd found it was more useful not to. People say things in front of a woman they've decided is nobody. And 18 months ago, when the Halloran Tower came up for sale, the tower her grandmother had mopped for 31 years, Yvonne Carter's holding company had bought it. All of it, including the 2 floors leased by Delaney and Voss, whose lease she had read cover to cover, and whose founding partner she had learned along the way, had cut his teeth decades earlier at the very farm that took her family's house. Delaney acted the first time the moment she walked in, with the laugh and the sweetheart and the wave toward legal aid. He acted the second time when she didn't leave. She'd come. She told him plainly about the building's lease, and he'd taken that as a woman confused about which door she wanted. And he'd pressed a button on his phone and told the receptionist to call building security to escort the lady out. He said it in front of the two associates, loud enough to teach them how a man handles a nuisance. Some people, he said, not quite to her, don't understand where they are. Yvonne understood exactly where she was. She was standing in her grandmother's hallway. The document she slid across the glass was the deed, the warranty deed recording her holding company's ownership of the Halloran Tower, the legal description of the land and the improvements, the recording stamp from the county, her signature as managing member. Under it, she laid the second page, which was worse for Delaney than the first. The estoppel certificate his own office manager had signed at the sale 18 months back, confirming the farm's lease terms to the new owner, confirming, in the farm's own hand, that Delaney and Voss was a tenant, and that the tenant's 5-year term expired in 90 days, and that the option to renew required the landlord's written consent, which the landlord had not given and did not intend to give. The man had summoned building security to remove the owner of the building. There was a lowest point in this, though it belonged to Yvonne and not to him, and it had come a year before, alone, the night before the tower sale closed. She'd sat at her kitchen table with the closing binder and her grandmother's dead keys, and she had, for 1 long hour, not been able to do it. Because owning the building meant she could finally do the thing that had lived in her since she was a girl at a partner's borrowed desk, she could put the farm out, the same kind of farm, into the same street her family had been put onto. And it had felt, that night, less like justice than like becoming the thing that had hurt them. Gloria's line had come to her strained and sour. Paper does the deciding. But what if the paper only let her do to someone else the cruelty that had been done to her? She'd held the useless keys a long time in the dark. She hadn't been sure she was any better than Grant Delaney until she decided. That night, how she would use the power and not just whether. Now she sat across from him and used it exactly the way she'd decided. Mr. Delaney. Her voice never rose. It didn't need to. My company owns this building. Your firm is a tenant. Your term ends in 90 days. Your renewal needs my consent. And you have it in writing that you understand that. She let it sit. You told me I was wasting your time. That's all right. I own your time. I have since before you laughed. Delaney's mouth worked. One of the associates in the doorway had gone still. The receptionist, who had appeared with a security guard the firm didn't command anymore, stood frozen with the phone still in her hand. And her face, this is the part Yvonne watched, her face was ashamed, because she had made an old black woman wait 40 minutes and slower every time, and she had just watched what that woman actually was. You can't just, Delaney started. I can, and I did it the right way, which is why it holds, Yvonne said. I didn't do anything but buy a building and read a lease. You did the rest yourself. That was the whole of the dagger, and she set it down soft. My grandmother cleaned these floors for 31 years. Men like you stepped over her every night. Not one of them ever thought the woman with the mop would own the mortgage. She stood and picked up the deed and folded it back into the canvas bag with the ring of dead keys. 980 days, Mr. Delaney. It's in the paper. Paper does the deciding. The reckoning ran on the levers that are actually real, which is what made it stick. Yvonne didn't have him thrown out that afternoon. A landlord can't, and she'd have been ashamed to try. She declined the renewal in writing, through counsel, clean and lawful, and she gave the firm its full 90 days, and then, when they asked, 30 more, because here was the grace. And it was the whole difference between her and the men who'd taken her family's house. She could have held them over as holdover tenants and doubled their rent and watched a proud farm scramble. She didn't. She let them relocate with their dignity, on a timeline a reasonable person could meet, and she said so to their faces. "I'm not going to do to you what your kind did to my grandmother," she told Delaney at the last, the two of them alone in the emptying office. "You live on time and you live whole. I decided a while back I'd rather own this building than become you in it. That's the only thing I've got that you don't." He didn't have an answer. Delaney and Voss moved out across the following months, quieter than they'd ever done anything, and the firm never fully recovered the shine it had walked around in. A senior partner who has to be told by his landlord that he doesn't understand where he is loses something that 400 an hour can't buy back. But Yvonne never spread it, never posted it, never made him small past what the paper had already made him. She'd meant what she said. Her hands stayed clean. There was an ally in it, the way there always is. The tower's longtime janitor, an older man named Ray, who worked the nights the way Gloria once had been the only person in the whole building to treat Yvonne like a human being the day she came. Had brought her a cup of water while Delaney kept her waiting and called her mum and meant it. He hadn't known who she was. Yvonne remembered. When the firm cleared out and she took the 2 floors for her own company's offices, she kept Ray on, and then she made him building manager, salaried, with keys of his own that opened every door and a name everyone learned. Because she had spent her childhood watching the world step over a person who jingled down these same halls, and she was in a position now to make it stop in at least this one building. Months on, the gold letters over the lobby read Carter Holdings, and on the wall by the elevators, in a plain glass case where every tenant passed it, hung a heavy ring of old brass keys that opened nothing in the building anymore, a janitor's keys, with a small plate beneath them that carried the only words Gloria Carter ever needed to leave behind. Yvonne started something with the rest of it, too. She set up a small fund out of the building's income, in her grandmother's name, that paid for property lawyers. Real ones. The kind that bill 400 an hour, to take the cases of families about to lose homes to fast clean foreclosures they didn't understand. The exact thing that had taken Gloria's house, while a laughing man told a widow she couldn't afford to be right. She couldn't get that house back. She could make sure the paper stopped being a weapon that only the Delaneys of the world knew how to hold. Some evenings, Yvonne worked late in the office that had been Grant Delaney's, and she'd stop at the glass case by the elevators on her way out and look at her grandmother's keys hanging quiet in the light. And she'd say the line the way Gloria used to say it, jingling down a dark hallway 30 years gone. Let them do the talking. Paper does the deciding. Talk had taken her family's home. Talk had laughed her grandmother out of an office and laughed Yvonne out of 100 rooms since. But talk had never once decided anything that lasted. Paper decided, and the woman they'd all stepped over had spent a lifetime learning to hold the right paper at the right moment and to know, when she finally set it on the glass, exactly what it said and exactly what kind of person she'd be when it was her turn to do the deciding. If you've ever been laughed out of a room by someone who was sure of what you were and held your paper and your dignity until the day it was your turn to decide, tell us about it in the comments. We read every one. The moral is plain as a recorded deed. Worth doesn't announce itself, and the people the powerful step over are so often the ones quietly learning to hold the very thing that decides. Dignity isn't laughing back when it's finally your turn. It's holding the power you fought for and refusing to become the person who hurt you. Who was the first person who taught you that patience holds more than pride ever will? The one who kept going when the world stepped over them. Tell us below. If Yvonne's quiet stood you up a little straighter, share it with someone who's been laughed out of a room and told to go somewhere cheaper. And wherever you've been made to wait, made to feel small, made to feel you don't belong in the marble, may you keep your paper, keep your grace, and live to set it on the glass one day and watch the whole room go silent at who you were the entire time.